Somewhere in a limestone cave in Indonesia, a human being pressed their hand against a rock wall, and 67,800 years later, we found it. This is the oldest known piece of art ever made by any human on Earth. Before we go further, if you love uncovering the hidden chapters of human history, hit that subscribe button right now, drop a like, and share this with someone whose mind needs blowing today. Let's get into it. The year is 2024. A team of archaeologists, led by researcher Adi Agus Octaviana and Professor Adam Brum of Griffith University in Australia, are surveying caves on a small, rugged island called Muna, tucked off the southeastern coast of Sulawesi in eastern Indonesia. This region had already stunned the world before. Back in 2019, a nearby cave on Sulawesi yielded what was then the oldest figurative cave painting ever found. A wild pig, at least 45,500 years old. But the researchers suspected there was more. Much more. Muna is not a famous island. It doesn't appear in most history books. There are no grand museums, no tourist trails to these caves. Just dense tropical vegetation, limestone cliffs, and caves that have been sealed in near silence for tens of thousands of years. When the team entered Liang Metendino, a limestone cave carved deep into the island's rock. What they saw on the walls stopped them cold. Barely visible against the cave wall, faded almost to nothing, were hand stencils. Reddish outlines of human hands, the kind of ancient mark made when someone pressed a palm flat against rock and blew pigment around it, leaving a ghostly silhouette behind. Simple, intimate, unmistakably human. But these were not ordinary hand stencils. The fingertips were elongated, pointed, deliberately shaped to look less like a human hand and more like a claw. Someone, tens of thousands of years ago, had consciously transformed the image of their own hand into something else entirely. Whether animal, spirit, or something beyond our modern categories, we simply don't know. The team carefully collected mineral samples from the thin calcium carbonate crust that had slowly grown over the pigment across the millennia. Back in the lab, they applied laser ablation uranium series dating, a precise technique that measures the radioactive decay of uranium within the mineral deposits to calculate a minimum age. The result came back in January 2026, published in the journal Nature. The stencil was at least 67,800 years old. To put that in perspective, the previous record holder, with a hand stencil in Maltreviso Cave in Spain, believed to have been made by Neanderthals, dated to around 66,700 years old. The Indonesian stencil is older, and it was made by our own species, Homo sapiens. There was more. A nearby hand stencil on the same cave wall, dated to at least 60,900 years old. And above both stencils, a completely separate layer of pigment dated to around 21,500 years old, meaning people returned to this exact same spot in this exact same cave at least twice, separated by more than 35,000 years. That gap is longer than all of recorded human history. Professor Adam Brum described the claw-like modification as deeply intentional. It was almost as if they were deliberately trying to transform this image of a human hand into something else. An animal claw, perhaps, he said. Clearly, they had some deeper cultural meaning, but we don't know what that was. I suspect it was something to do with these ancient people's complex, symbolic relationship with the animal world. Scientists are careful not to overinterpret. The honest answer is, we don't fully know what these people believed or why they made these marks. What researchers agree on is that the act of making deliberate symbolic art, especially art that transforms reality into something imagined, is a milestone of complex human cognition. It requires abstract thought. It requires intention. It requires culture. Some researchers believe finds like this support the theory that symbolic behavior evolved gradually in human populations over hundreds of thousands of years. Others argue it emerged more suddenly, perhaps tied to changes in social complexity or language. The Indonesian discoveries don't settle that debate. but they push the confirmed evidence of this behavior significantly further back in time and further east in geography than many had previously accepted. There is also a geographical implication that researchers find compelling. For early humans to have been on Muna Island 67,800 years ago, they would have had to cross open ocean, a deliberate, planned journey. This strongly supports existing archaeological evidence that modern humans had reached Australia by at least 65,000 years ago. The cave art of Muna and its neighboring islands may represent the traces of that great migration. People moving through island Southeast Asia on their way to a new continent. This discovery reshapes what we know, and more importantly, what we thought we knew about when and where human creativity first flourished. For a long time, the story of art was told primarily through the lens of Europe. The painted caves of Lascaux in France, the carvings of southern Germany. These were held up as the birthplace of human artistic expression. The discoveries in Indonesia, building over the past decade, are fundamentally rewriting that narrative. Art did not begin in Europe. It appears to have deep, ancient roots in Southeast Asia, and possibly beyond, in regions we haven't yet fully explored. The cave at Liang Medindino also gives us something rare and moving, evidence of continuity. Different people across more than 35,000 years were drawn to the same wall, the same rock, the same space. Whatever this place meant to them, sacred, communal, spiritual, it held meaning across generations so distant from each other that they likely had no direct cultural memory linking them. And yet they came back. That tells us something profound about what it means to be human. We are creatures who make meaning. We mark our world. We return to the places that matter. And apparently, we have been doing so for far longer than we once imagined. The researchers believe there's almost certainly more art waiting to be found on nearby islands, possibly even older. Future excavations and dating studies may push the record back further still and help scientists trace how artistic traditions developed and spread across the ancient world. Here's what I wanted to think about and drop in the comments. If you could leave one mark on a wall, one image, one symbol, one shape, for people to find 67,000 years from now, what would it be? And what would you want them to understand about us? That's the story of the world's oldest known cave art. A 67,800-year-old handprint from a limestone cave in Indonesia, and the quiet, staggering reminder that humans have always needed to reach out and say, I was here. If this video moved you, or made you think differently about human history, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more curious minds. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we go deep on stories like this every week. Share it with a friend who loves history, science, or just the big, beautiful mystery of being human. And I'll see you in the next one.